Foote is with MVTV, and Julie has been involved in all 3 rounds of our process, starting with the Worthington area in Wruke, and then she is currently with Nobles County. In the last round, she was involved with the Southwest Minnesota Broadband area, Jackson County, my hometown area. And then Maureen Ideker is with Telehealth, and Maureen's involved with the Resilient Region 5 area, working on telehealth related projects. And then we have Wruke, who's the county recorder at Marin County, and she's involved with the Marin County program this year. You might have seen Kay yesterday. She's going to talk a little bit about that again, but she's also going to talk about one of the projects she didn't speak about yesterday. So we'll get a chance to hear from those folks. They're going to give an overview, and then we're going to ask a couple of questions, much like the format that Bernadine used yesterday with the panel. And we'll have some time, I'm sure, at the end for some questions and answers. So. With that, we'd like Julie to start us off, and I will get her PowerPoint up on the screen here.
I need aids. Okay, I have the privilege of living between 2 counties, actually very close to 3, Cottonwood, Jackson, and Nobles County, and they have identified that in order to make as big an impact as possible, we need to work as regional partners. So it's not, we've got this plant and this is our potatoes and nobody's going to take our gravy. We need to work together to bring people to the region and spend money and have jobs and raise kids. So the 1690 Corridor Initiative, we have a fiber ring in Jackson County, very close to Nobles County, and we have many other providers. MVTV Wireless, the largest fixed wireless provider in Minnesota. We have all of these, this wonderful environment for agriculture and healthcare and all kinds of industry. So what this this group's initiative is to kind of shine a spotlight on the different ways that we can bring industry to our community. But we've also identified that we have to, in order to keep workers, we need to have a livability campaign, and you may wonder why does that apply to moving up the ladder of technology. Well, the livability campaign is dependent upon your resources being geotagged. So within your community, if someone goes online and says, I'm thinking about living in Jackson, and they can't find the bike path, or they can't find the new bicycle shop that's opening up downtown, how are they supposed to know that it's a great place to live? So, and the livability campaign is we're also going to be working with the communities to identify, did you even realize that this is an asset? People just don't even, they take things for granted, in other words. Let's see here. So we're going to have 2 meetings, and actually I'm not going to dive into that because the real important part is just we need to have our assets geotagged so that they're visible to people. Okay. We are also working in Nobles County on expanding on an already successful initiative of social media breakfast. And for those who don't know what social media breakfast is, it's a non-competitive environment for businesses, small to large, and organizations to get together and talk about how to use technology as a resource, how to sell products on Main Street and across the oceans. And this initiative, we've decided that we're going to bring it online so that people who say you're the only person in your store and you can't lock your doors to come and find out how to use technology or how to use social media. So we're bringing it online. We've actually already started teleconferencing. You can register, you get a link that you sign into, and you're watching us in Worthington in a coffee shop on Main Street. And you can type in your questions and we'll respond. And then it's video archived. So we actually have businesses that subscribe to both. They come to the actual physical event so that they can network, and then they go back to their business or organization, and then they watch the archived event. Okay? And then those communities that don't have a smart board or don't have the resources in order to take advantage of this program, we have secured Blandin funds in order to purchase smart TVs to help include them in the program. Okay.
Can I just ask how many TVs?
There are going to be 5.
5 in
Yeah.
different communities around Cottonwood?
It's, yes, Cottonwood and Jackson, and one right on the edge of Nobles. So, and a good example is the high school in Brown Lake, small town in Nobles County. They shut the high school down, and many of the locals band together and purchased the building, and they've created a community center. And they have some retail in there, they do community events, they have a gym, and now they're going to have a technology room. And they're going to have a smart TV thanks to Blandin. Okay, so NEON, Nobles Economic Opportunity Network. We are doing the free hotspot initiative. We are the provider that's going to be working with NEON to make internet available in all of our smaller communities, so those kids who don't have internet at home don't have to drive all the way into Worthington to go to the library. We're also working with PCs for People. That's not really on the technology side, but we do, we are a partner with PCs for People and provide a low-cost option for recipients. With NEON, we're also doing digital inclusion through education, community ed, and digital literacy for the diverse communities. And Tom would probably be able to speak better to this, but basically we are working with the collaborative to expose them to that technology, and everything from, this is how you use a mouse, to some looking online for jobs and that type of thing.
And when Julie says a collaborative, she means the intercultural collaborative in Worthington, which Worthington's probably the most diverse school district in Minnesota right now. It's second most, yeah.
And I'm just going to refer back to the public free hotspot access. We make it really simple. They would find the connection in the networking tray. They click on the link. We capture some information, and we know that we're not always going to get accurate information because teenagers and things. But and then they're assigned a user ID and password, and that user ID and password will work on any of the 9 hotspots. But with this information, we then get an idea of who's using it. So then we can look back, we have trackable usage. So I think that is it for me.
Okay.
And thank you, Linda.
Great. Thank you, Julie.
Oh,
okay.
you don't have one.
Maureen.
Thanks. When we were preparing for this, I think we were told we didn't get to use a PowerPoint, and so I didn't put one together. But then we did get another email that said maybe we could use it, so I wasn't sure. As Carl said, I'm working with Resilient Region 5. I'm a registered nurse. I'm the director of Telehealth for Essentia Health. And I work from Wisconsin at the base of Lake Superior all the way over into North Dakota. I have an office in Duluth, one in Graceville, and one in my home. So speaking of personal interest in having good broadband. For 21 years, I have worked in telehealth. And I thought, I've also, you know, been administrative director and chief nursing officer for most of those years in hospitals. But telehealth was one of the projects that I led and grew. And one of the things that happened is that the federal and the state agencies, governments, through grants, helped to nourish and teach me along the way. And 22 years ago when I started in telehealth, I was one of 2 nurses in the United States who actually started learning about telehealth. Now we have many, many more nurses who are very directly involved in telehealth, but it really has taken some time. In Resilient Region 5, which is Cass, Crow Wing, Todd, Wadena, and Morrison, we identified that there were people that were very much interested in video conferencing for healthcare and different aspects for healthcare, but they really hadn't looked into it. And there wasn't really an offering to kind of teach people how to, you know, how it might work. So we decided, well, that would be the project that we would pursue in Resilient Region 5. And we appreciate the Blandin Foundation's support. And as we were putting this together in Region 5, we were talking about the leveraging of funding. And I was kind of, you know, really kind of interested in that because I hadn't thought about it that much. But the $10,000 grant leveraged over 14,000 additional dollars. And so that was kind of a nice thing too. What we actually accomplished, the goal was to provide 7 classes across the 5 counties and at the Leech Lake Reservation, and they would be 8 hours each. And there'd be a volunteer from each one of the Region 5 communities and areas that would help service host and provide the site and mail and copying and that kind of thing. And then help to generate ideas during the class session as well. And we've had 6 of the 7 classes, and they have really gone very, very well. It probably beyond my wildest dreams is really what I would say. So we've had, you know, the purpose of it was not only to teach about telehealth and to give examples and handouts, and this is what you need to use. I should put it in one of your books, Frank. I should actually put this in there. You know, make one of those like you told us about in the last session. But the not only to give the tools that would need to be used, but to actually have participants be there for an actual implementation session that we were doing regarding opioid tapering. Now, opioid tapering is for people who've been, you know, for many years using opioid medication for chronic pain, perhaps, and now the decision has been made that they're going to taper off those medications, and how to do that, and what role telehealth is going to play. So not only did we teach about medication therapy management, and very specifically about what opioid tapering would and could look like, then we talked about the workflow process that it would take to actually implement that service. And we actually, through this, implemented it in 10 different clinics. So not only did we do the project, but we actually implemented this in 10 clinics in the Resilient Region 5 area. So the telehealth, as the, you know, I posted a little thing out there, you know, why do you like broadband? Of course, it had to be about telehealth for me. So I said because it increases the access to people in rural communities, just kind of the very same thing you're talking about, Julie. And and also that it stretches scarce healthcare resources. You know, in our very rural communities, healthcare professionals can be very, very isolated. And they can feel like they don't have enough help, you know, to refer to. They don't have professional colleagues and that kind of thing. So having video conferencing and using telemedicine is a big part of overcoming that. One of the things that, Karl, you had asked that we talk about is how did we actually reach some of our audiences? What methods did we use? And one of the things we did reach a broad audience. And when we did the mailing, you know, we looked at the whole, you know, in the phone book, you know, different ways of generating who should be invited. We invited dentists, chiropractors, veterinarians, and so on. Now, interestingly enough, we didn't really get those people to attend the workshop. We had the more traditional physicians, administrators of nursing homes and hospitals and clinics, nurses, social workers, business development people. But, you know, I thought, and also people from social services and home care. But, you know, I thought at least the chiropractors, the dentists, and the veterinarians, the next time they see something about telehealth or video conferencing, it's going to make them start thinking that, hey, you know what? Somebody's thinking this applies to me. And it does, because before too long, they're going to be using these services as well. And so we used a variety of methods to actually reach out to people. Not only did we use you know, telephone calls, emails, flyers, regular mail, press releases, but you know, it was really that personal touch that makes the biggest difference. We also offered CEUs for that. So enough from that for now.
Great, yes, thank you. Okay, next we'll hear from Kay, and well, the microphone's getting passed out there.
Sorry.
We've seen several applications of this now through our broadband communities that have been going on, and they've really been exciting, and not just in the health, but also in the therapy area, both mental health therapy, but Southwest Minnesota, you know, I'm sure, Dawn, you probably have heard of the speech therapy going on down in the Ed Co-op down in the 9 districts down there. How much is it going on in your district, Renee? Okay. You know, how much the kids love kind of being on TV, and but the windshield time that used to be wasted time for therapists is now spent with kids, you know, so they're reaching that many more young students, so it's been really great. So, okay, thank you.
Karl's kind of got a theme here with counties. He's talking Jackson, Nobles, and Cottonwood, and I'm Martin, and that they're all combined. They're all one little area, so you got a good theme here. Sorry.
It's my hometown area. I'm sure you guys are taking care of it.
Oh, that was good. That was very good, because we've done some pretty neat things. Today, I know we've been talking about, you know, broadband and the expansion of broadband and getting it into our communities, but then there's also the piece that you have to train your community. And we felt that one of the areas we needed to work on was our students, and make sure that they were well trained in some computer technology that they may not have been getting in school, which they weren't actually, or not enough of. So we started an app camp for 9th through 12th graders in the summer. They went for a couple weeks. They got really nice tablets out of the deal, and they also had to, once they had finished the course, they also had to donate 5 hours of community service working on some other projects for us. They did a very good job. They started working on some different programming pieces, and they finally settled on Scratch because they just did not have enough background in what they were doing. The majority of these students were 10th graders, 9th and 10th graders, and this was countywide. We finished it up, and with talking to the kids, they said, you know, we should have started this when we were a lot younger. It would have been a lot better if we were doing this in grade school. The instructor at the time did too, thought it would also be better. So we went to the schools, the superintendent principals, and we asked them, do you have a person, is there some teacher that's got some training or whatever? And it just happened that one of the guys just graduated with his master's degree in STEM and had started a curriculum on Scratch for younger kids. So we started it out with 5th and 6th graders, and we started it out in our main school, which is the Fairmont School District, and then we took all the parochial schools in the district too, or in that area, to be involved with this too, and we got a really good turnout. Some of those schools, you know, they only have maybe 10 5th and 6th graders, so we did get some good input from them. We did it after school for 12 days and had an open house and for the parents to come in, and the students needed some extra help because there were 16 of them and one instructor, so we brought in the App Camp kids, and they really enjoyed working with the younger kids on Scratch and using the Scratch programming. We were pretty frugal with our money. We found out that we still have a bunch left, and fortunately this instructor is going to go on and teach for the other school districts in February, then in this spring, and get more students and the other parochial schools in Martin County. So the App Camp kids, the older kids, had to also work at the fair and show what they did. They created a mini app for Martin County. It wasn't probably the most usable app, but it was a very good effort. They made games which were more usable and actually very interesting. And they had to demonstrate that and at the fair to people, so they had to go out and grab people in the aisles and show them what they did. We got a lot of publicity out of that. We got a lot of newspaper stories on it. Local TV came in. It was a very popular piece. So these app camps that we're doing now, or the coding camps that we're doing for the younger kids, are a little more getting more attention too because of the age group that they're coming in at. So with the kids working the extra 5 hours, which they've got to work off, they have also been doing another project that we've worked on, which is very similar to what you have done with your social media breakfasts, but they're not for businesses, they're for generally the older population. So we're covering the youth and we're covering seniors. And we have had them in coffee shops where you basically bring whatever device you want to bring in, and we try to answer simple questions, basic questions, searching security issues. We talk a lot about security issues, and we always hear, particularly from the 80 and 90-year-olds from the assisted living units, my children brought me this for Christmas and I don't have a clue. And, but it is also extremely surprising in a lot of cases how much they really do know and how they really do pick it up. But they need a helping hand to say, you will not break it. That being said, I did have some issues with one of the tablets that I brought in, so it's at the IT. But it's been quite an interesting experience. Our advertising for these camps has been on various places. We've worked with our community ed program. Our community ed program has also worked with the community calendar, and we now have our community calendar working through all the cities and schools as best we can get it out there, and so everything is advertised through the community calendar, which has really been very active. A lot of marketing that they've done on their part, and getting it out to people, so we use that advertising tool.
An online community calendar.
An online community calendar, yes. There's a lot of sporting events that has everything on there, and you can filter it out to just certain things and specific things that you need. So it's been a very good project for us. The students are also, like I said, giving back to the community, and the older students are working with the seniors, and I think that's kind of an eye-opening experience for them, I think, both ways. So we need broadband in there. If we can teach and train them, we need to have the broadband available community-wide. So that's the next really big push for us too.
Great. Kay, we're going to start with Kay this time. Tell us either a success story or something you're most proud of, any of the projects that you've been working on down there.
I think it's just very nice working with the public. My position as a county recorder, I deal with the public. We do vital records, so I'm with the public quite a bit. And I'm elected, so that's kind of nice too. But and the older generation in particular, the students, I was totally amazed with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders and what they can learn and what they do develop in programming and how well they like it. I probably, one of the success stories for the other woman that I work with from AT&T who helped with the grant. We were at our last coding camp, and the fathers came up to us and thanked us. They were so pleased to see that their kids could accomplish what they've accomplished at such a young age. So that was a very rewarding thing, you know, for all the work that you put into something like that. I think too, it was the mother who came in too and just said that her son had a concussion about a little while before, and he had really slipped in school and learning, and particularly in math, which he was relatively good in. And he had gone through the camp and definitely had picked up on his math skill sets again, and showed a lot more interest in math again, which helped him develop a lot. So that was pretty rewarding for me.
Thank you, Kate. Maureen?
One of the rewarding, excuse me, one of the rewarding pieces for the project has been that we started to identify some areas in opioid tapering that were kind of missing. And with this group of different people that were coming together, we had lots of input on just ideas of things that maybe would help. And one of the outcomes of that was that we asked the marketing department to actually create a video, a DVD, that would help other patients who were wanting to go through the opioid taper to actually understand it a little bit more, and to hear a success story from a woman who went through that. And so now we have a patient teaching tool that will actually, help to have people utilize the service more and not be so afraid and not think it won't work, because it was a tremendous success story. So some of the collaborative successes were probably part of the the learnings in this.
Well, the repurposing of the Round Lake School was definitely a success, but since I've already talked about that, I'm going to pick it up. Okay. When we were getting the free hotspots going, I went around to some of the communities that, just to test the connection, and so I could watch a video, and to also hand these postcards out to the businesses in the area, so that once we did start marketing, or in the meantime between implementation and when we actually start marketing, if people were started questioning, well, what is this? I see this this connection out there. Is it something we can use? So I was in one of the communities reading, and I went over to the elevator and was talking to the lady in the office, and she was so happy that we were getting this resource in place, and she was talking about the older people in town who had never used a laptop or an iPad, because why should we? We don't have a connection anyway, a reliable connection. So she was sharing those stories with me, and she said, and when our connection goes down here at the elevator, I can grab my iPad, go over, and continue working. Yay.
Terrific. One last question. What's a challenge, a lesson learned, something you would pass on as advice if somebody else is trying a similar project to folks? Just a quick word of advice on something you tried to help somebody save some time, or not make the same mistake, if you've had any of those. Or a limitation that speed's caused in your community too, that would be another. Anything anybody's ready to share?
One of the things that we did, and I just thought, well, okay, I'm just going to be very brave about doing this. And we asked for, during our sessions, we asked for feedback, evaluatory feedback, several times during the session. And it helped to prepare, because we were planning on doing 7 classes. So let's go ahead and make sure that the content was where people were able to really understand it, and that the flow of the material, because one of the things in the workshop is that we had a lot of hands-on resources, so that people could actually walk away from the workshop and know how to implement a telehealth program. And here are the tools. And so by having frequent evaluation, it really helped us make changes. And in the first 3 sessions in particular, we made quite a few changes. And people were not, one lesson learned is probably people weren't afraid to give you the evaluatory feedback if you asked for it.
Thanks. Okay, anything you want to?
I think I'm kind of similar on that too. We did a lot of evaluation, and I think we got a lot of information from our kids, the older kids. They were quite blunt and honest about things, and we appreciated that. I also think too, community involvement. We really had to get out and call. I mean, I was on the phone a lot, calling a lot of people and connecting with resources. That was a big part of it too. And the other big part is being on the phone and emailing. Lots of press releases, all the time to every newspaper in the county, just to get the word out about what we're doing. And then we also have ran lots of ads to get the word out. And sometimes in our smaller communities, we're not getting the people that we think we should be getting. And so we're really questioning why, when we would have some of our basic computer sessions, why we wouldn't have any turnout at all. And we're still trying to figure out why. I think part of the reason maybe is because we don't have broadband in those areas, so they really don't even have maybe a computer at all. And they're older people, and they're in communities that are a little more financially stressed too. So that's an area that we're going to be searching and looking into.
Okay, we'd like to open it up for any questions that are from the audience. Yes.
I guess I'd be just looking for some insight. Over the next year and a half, 30 rural town hall and fire halls in rural St. Louis County are going to be connected with fiber to the town hall, fire hall. And the organization I work for was a funding partner, and now I'm really concerned because I want to make sure that they get the connection and then they can optimize that connection. And some of these little town halls, it was a struggle even to get them to see the benefit of taking this connection, this grant opportunity. And so any insight on where to start or who to think about as the partner to make sure that once they get their connection, they're getting some sort of something to make sure that it's being used?
I'll take a little crack at that just because we've seen this a lot of times in K, just said about people not taking the advantage of, you know, when Connect Minnesota was around, they did a lot of research and found that by far the largest reason people did not access the internet and use it was they didn't see the relevance in it. And so I think, and one thing we learned too when we were working with business training is we really didn't get many to sign up until we would go and do a chamber lunch and learn about the idea of change and not being afraid of change and what happens if you don't change. You know, the quote we always use, you might not like change, but you'll like obsolescence even less. And once we started making that case and showing them the statistics of how many people are online, how many people shop, even before they buy locally, they go online to check price points and the customer reviews and things like that. So I think doing some education and presentation about the relevance of what it can do for you is really helpful. I can talk to you afterwards to give you some more ideas. Anyone else want to?
I guess I'll just speak to our hotspot project. We had a, is Cheryl in here? We had a community advocate, and she did a wonderful job. She went to each one of the townships, went to their monthly meeting, explained the opportunity, talked about, keep your elderly in their home longer, kids doing homework, and she definitely framed it up for them so they understood the value.
And still some didn't take it. You know, so
well,
you're not alone.
Luckily, all 30 townships, they're accepting it. They did a resolution of support. They're going to take that connection, but now I'm just, and I built into the project this 2 free years of service, so they have this opportunity to see the value, so then they'll pay for their monthly service. But yeah, I'm just kind of like, oh, what do we do here to make sure they're ready to go?
Anything else? Yes.
The calendar, the community calendar our community's working with, or trying to address, who's I've heard you say the schools, it's the calendar? Is there any like community events that are part of that
Oh,
also?
yeah. It's all the cities, we try to get all of the cities to be involved with it. The Chamber of Commerce that we have, and then all the schools were involved in that too.
And what's the platform, what's the technology that you use for that calendar?
That I don't,
Email me and I'll send it to you, because I have it in my.
Okay.
grant
I didn't
review
work
file.
directly on
Thanks.
that,
Yep.
on that piece, but I know I have a staff person in my office working on it. She's putting the information in for our county now, because it's just a very quick, easy thing to do. So actually it's coming out of our office for us, but basically the Chamber of Commerce in Fairmont was the lead on that, along with our community recreation group.
And the school bought, it was about $8,500 for the software platform.
I have a question for you. How do people get events onto the calendar? Do they submit them and then you approve them? And
Right.
Right, yeah, they're submitted, and we have we sign up for password. So everybody who's using it and putting information on it is basically registered with the Community Recreation Group. And then they have a training program that they did, and it's very brief, very quick. And they just train you on what to do, what to look at, what do you really want to put on there. And so there is oversight on it. Like I said, mine's a staff person in my office who's doing it for the county. She also does the Facebook and our social media pieces too. So.
Laura's done a similar one using WordPress too, just on their website for Canadian County areas. We're just about out of time, so I want to thank them. But I do want to just, before they go, we all know rural broadband is just one of the big issues we're facing, and that equity and connectivity. But the other one, you heard of a couple of, almost all three of the projects address. I think the next really big issue we're facing too is finding and retaining skilled workers. What we found as we go out and talk to businesses, traditional economic development, they're all saying we got to find jobs, good jobs, good jobs. Well, all the employers in towns that I'm going to now are saying we don't need any more jobs because we can't fill the jobs we have now. So the big challenge for us is going to be finding workers. So you're hearing stories about livability. How do we tell the story that this is a good place to live, that we have broadband, that we have things to do. And the other thing I think we need to do is create these young social networks so people can get connected and feel a sense of belonging. But you're also hearing about growing your own skilled workers, providing that training to young people at a very young age so that they become tech savvy. And because we know some of them are going to stick around or come back, so providing that training and building that skilled workforce. And then finally having the services that we can access quality health care from afar. So I think all of those issues are really important for us, but just the fact we have to have the broadband, we're not going to get those people to move to our communities. All the things. So thanks to our panel.